Hi, this is Bishop Craig in Lansing, and this is take one for the week of March 1st. Peace be with you. I hope your Lent is very meaningful. A couple of things I want to talk to you about. First, the coronavirus. I've received some questions and concerns about what that means for church and for worship. I am mindful that different congregations seem to have different levels of concern. And I would suspect that that within congregations, different individuals have different levels of concern, different levels of risk, shall we say? So we don't want to we don't want to ignore the virus, and we don't want to overreact. And so what we're hearing right now is use the same good sense you would use during flu season. So if you are sick, don't decide I'm going to take one for the team and show up to church because I'm singing in the choir, or I'm ushering, or I'm the assisting minister. Take one for the team and stay home. God will understand, and the people with whom you worship will be grateful. Hand washing is really important. So bring your hand sanitizer to church. Some congregations are talking about making sure the door to the sanctuary is open so that people don't have to touch the handle. Others are talking about having greeters with hand sanitizer so people can actually wash their hands as they go into church. Some congregations are going to put hand sanitizer in the pew so that people can wash their hands before they go to the Eucharist. So there's three ideas. People have specifically asked about the peace of the Lord, sharing of the peace. And my advice there is do what is comfortable. Again, people have different levels of comfort. And that if you don't want to touch, or if you don't want to be touched, the peace of putting your hands over your shoulders and bowing and saying, the peace of the Lord be with you, or peace of Christ be with you, is appropriate. And we need to respect people's comfort levels and not insist on a handshake or a hug. People may not want to do that. I guess this would be a helpful time for me to remember that what the peace of Christ really is about is not a simple good morning to everybody in church, but it is sharing the reconciling love of Christ before we go to the Eucharist. And I think it's the Gospel of Mark. It says that, if you are bringing your sacrifice to the altar and remember that someone has had something against you, go and first be reconciled and then bring your offering. So before we go to the altar, in our structure of liturgy, we share the peace. So while it is fun and joyous to share the peace with everybody in the room, the peace is especially about reaching out to those who have sins against us, or who we need to forgive. So I suspect that if we keep that in mind, the peace will become a little slower. I'm not saying anything bad about preaching or about sharing the peace with everybody in the room. My bottom line is do it in a way that is comfortable for everyone. So the peace. I also posted on Facebook last week that it is time for me to remind you that the best way to get a hold of me if you need me, especially in time-sensitive matters, is to call the office and leave a message rather than send me a voicemail, or rather than send me an email. Use voicemail rather than email. Sending me an email, you will get a response, but not in a real quick manner. And sending me a second email or texting me to tell me to read my email really isn't helpful. Email is visual. It's time consuming for me. I can get a lot of other work done in the time it takes me to do email. I do it every day for as long as I can, but I usually don't get through everything every day. So that is just the reality. Someone said to me this week that, if you can't keep up with the email, people are wondering whether you can do your job. I wonder that too as I'm plowing through the email. I wonder that too as I seek to serve a church that makes an explicit welcome to people who are economically diverse, who makes an explicit welcome to young people, who makes an explicit welcome to people who are multicultural and who makes an explicit welcome to people who self-identify as LGBTQIA+, and really doesn't make an explicit welcome to people who live with disabilities. That's not even in our aspirational goals in the ELCA. So I do wonder whether I can do my job in this church. I have days like that. So if you're wondering whether I can do my job because I can't keep up with the email, know that I wonder it too. The good thing is that we have a discernment process. We do it every 6 years in terms of a bishop election. And for the last 2 bishop elections in our synod, the Spirit through the church has discerned that even if I can't keep up with my email, I'm the one to do this job as bishop. And we will get to discern this again together in May of 2025. So in the meantime, I'm it. If you need a quick response from me, leave a voicemail message. Don't send an email. Okay? So, Lent. We are now beginning 4 Sundays in Lent, in which we read from John. And these stories, the church has used these stories in Lent as people prepare for baptism, as images or dimensions of baptism. So we have Jesus and Zacchaeus talking about what it means to be born of water and the Spirit, to be born again, to be born from above. We have Jesus' encounter with the woman at the well, in which we explore what it means to have our deepest thirst satisfied with living water and to become a spring of living water for others. In the third week, we have a long encounter in which Jesus heals a man born blind, and we explore what it means to see with the eyes of faith. And then on the 4th Sunday, we have the raising of Lazarus, and we talk about baptism bringing us from death to new life. So that's pretty powerful images if you want to talk about baptism. For Sunday, it's about birth. It's about new birth. It's about being born of water and the Spirit. And I don't know a ton about birth, but I know that I don't think that the baby decides it's time to be born. And I don't know that the mother says, I think I'll give birth today. Birth is a process in which we have no control. So Nicodemus' question is, what must I do? And Jesus' answer is, be born. Trust the process. Trust God at work in your baptism. Trust God at work in your life. Give up control. Yield, submit, and even ride the wave of God's control. And there is the grace and the joy, the new life, and the possibility of baptism. So that's fun to think about. I won't be preaching this week because I will be at the spring meeting of the Conference of Bishops in Chicago. Pastor Sprang will be visiting his dad, who thankfully is being released from rehab after a stroke. So we remember David and his family, and especially his dad, in our prayers. So Pastor Roseanne will be holding down the fort. I do ask your prayers for me as I attend the Conference of Bishops. The ELCA Church Council will be meeting with us. So there are going to be lots and lots of people, and people that don't know me and that I don't know, and me negotiating unfamiliar surroundings with people who don't realize that I don't see well, in a church that is not sensitive to people who would live with disabilities is always a challenge. I come home exhausted. So I really do ask for your prayers, that God would grant me grace and patience with myself and others, and that God would grant others grace and patience as they deal with me. So there you go. That's take one for this first week in March. Have a blessed Lent, and peace be with you.